Tyler, what's happening?
How we doing? Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, thanks for joining the Playbook podcast. So I'd love to start with just your background in kind of the whole sports performance world. Take me to where it all starts.
Started in Wyoming, just always been a gym rat junkie growing up. I mean, for as long as I can remember, I was always playing basketball, doing something on a court. So that's kind of just how it all got started. And then
High school sports?
Yeah, basketball. That's pretty much all I ever did.
Basketball, hell yeah.
Then went to junior college, was on the basketball team there. Then I destroyed my shoulders. So just like every other AT, PT, strength coach, like that's how their villain story is, and that's why they get into sports performance and, athletic training, whatever it is. And so I ended up having 2 shoulder surgeries and said enough sports for me, took up golf and went full on athletic training and strength and conditioning.
And then did you know, so like right after college, did you know exactly what kind of field you were going to be in, or how did that kind of transition work?
I mean, going into college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was like started off as a nursing student and then just kind of like bounced around. But again, just kind of being the gym rat, it was a perfect marriage being in sports medicine, because I could always work and be around basketball. And that's kind of all it's ever been. Yeah, going into that, had no idea. But I always knew I wanted to work, with basketball in some capacity. And then
Sure.
especially at the highest levels, like I was never one of those guys that was like, I'm okay working just at, high school or whatever. It's like for me, I always wanted to work in the NBA, and then just took it and went from, right out of grad school, I got my first NBA job and then just kind of never looked back, honestly.
Yeah, so you've been with the Hornets, the Cavs, UCLA men's basketball. Can you
Yep.
tell our audience what you do today?
Yeah, now I'm just a private practice athletic trainer. I work with one NBA athlete with the Dallas Mavericks. And yeah, it's just me and him. It's awesome. It's kind of like, LeBron James has his guy, Mike Mancias. He was the first person I ever saw this happen with. When I was with the Cavs, LeBron was still there, and I saw how Mike and LeBron worked, and I was like, this is the coolest job ever, and that's kind of was always the plan. And I shouldn't say the plan. It was always something I wanted to do. And, 7 years later, after working with my guy in Charlotte, we able to do it now. And it's been awesome.
Yeah, so currently you're a performance therapist for Caleb Barton, correct?
Yep, exactly.
And how did you meet Caleb?
So when I was with the Hornets, we drafted his brother actually, and he came in and they, as a favor to Cody, they said, we'll bring on your brother as they call him an Exhibit 10 contract. So pretty much like a G League guy. But
Sure.
he had just had a torn MCL from a week before. So the Hornets brought him in. They were like, hey, look, he's your rehab assignment. And, of course, you spend every day with him for a year. You become close friends. And then, you just kind of have a good working relationship and everything. And then, it just took off from there. 7 years later, he called me, and that's how this whole story came to where it's at now, honestly.
Dude, badass, man. I mean, you're living your dream. You did exactly what you said. You're at the top of the game. What are you building at ARC?
Yeah, so ARC is the advanced rehab certification. It was more or less founded because as I got through my ranks, and especially once I got to UCLA, I just kept getting a lot of messages from other athletic trainers and physical therapists asking like what my rehab process was. What were the things I was thinking about, and the different kind of check boxes throughout the rehab timeline that needed to be checked. And I just noticed that there was definitely a need for it, and like it got me back to like when I was going through athletic training school, like kind of what was missed and what I didn't know then. And I was like, I need to kind of formulate this in a very basic level, like rehab by itself is such a, you could take 10 years of a course and expand on it in every different way and still not be anywhere close to what actually rehab is. So I kind of took the nuts and bolts of some of my philosophy and then just built it out, and that's kind of what it is. So it's a 4-night course that, now anybody can take it anytime. They can take it asynchronously and rock through it, and just kind of give them a good, I guess, like insight into what I think when I'm doing rehab and dealing with fascial lines and just kind of my approach really.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I can see the website. It says, it bridges the gap between theory and elite performance. I feel like that's super important in today's world with all just that clutter out there.
Yeah. Again, like everybody wants to bridge the gap, right? And what it is, it's for like strength coaches. Everybody wants to bridge the gap between rehab and performance. But like the biggest thing to remember is, the only difference between rehab and performance is the presence of an injury. That's it. So it's
Right.
like, how do you maintain, I guess, closing that gap, within it, and it's really not that hard. It's like it's just performance, just on an injury. That's all it is.
Cool. I'd love to get into some of your favorite like advanced tech and tools that you integrate with your athletes. Could you get into some
Mhm.
of like maybe your top 3 or 4 favorites?
Yeah, I mean, so like right now, from a rehab side of things, I'm a big fan of using the Indiba. It's something I'm using right now. It's great for stem cell proliferation. It's kind of what I don't know if I should say this, but I'm gonna. It's kind of like everybody knows what ultrasound is, right? And how people's like, I don't
Sure.
know if that actually works or not. In my mind, it's ultrasound, but it actually works.
Okay.
Like it,
Cool.
like the athletes get the hot feeling from it. We get a lot of immediate results with it. So I'm a big fan of Indiba. I'm a big fan of Shockwave. We've been using that in our practice and seeing great results with it. Trying to think of anything else specifically. I
You're an
mean,
Incrediwear athlete, correct?
yeah,
Incrediwear? You a big fan of
Incrediwear.
Incrediwear?
Yeah, always have been, since they first brought me on over 10 years ago, I think. I got introduced to the founder and like one of their main lead guys, and they've always just, yeah, taken care of me. But they've always had the science to back up their product. And I've,
Right.
I've been a huge fan of Incrediwear ever since then. Hydro BFR, I love it because it's
Yeah.
like, it's BFR with no cord. So like I always say, it's like going from the tethered headphones to AirPods, right? That's really what it is. It's like a freedom of movement. So
Sure.
love those. Halo, it's great for PEMF. It's something I keep on my couch and use almost daily.
Yeah, wait, let's dive in. Let's dive in more to Halo. Yeah, tell me about
Mhm.
Halo.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this awesome disc shaped thing, really, that kind of emits electromagnetic waves, honestly, and can kind of tune up your cellular or your cells to certain frequencies, I guess. So,
Yeah.
whether you're trying to, recover, prep for activity, dial in, whatever it is, you can do it for brain inflammation. And really all it is you just set your phone to, whatever you're trying to achieve, and it turns
Sure.
on. You kind of sit there and kick it, honestly. So
The portability aspect's game changing. Because it's like you
portability
used
is
to
awesome.
have those, you used to have those $25,000 beds to sit in, but now it's like,
Yeah.
hey, you can
Yeah,
take
this thing's
this
not like
little
a thing
circular
right
thing with
here.
you,
I
right?
just throw it on my stomach while I'm playing video games, and it's awesome.
Who are some of you mentioned Mike Mancias? Who are some of your other like just inspirations getting into the field and like they don't have to be trainers specifically. They could be athletes, entrepreneurs. Just any inspirations throughout your journey.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of weird, but Steve Jobs has always been somebody that like I've kind of like looked up to in a sense, like from a entrepreneurial aspect, how he always like looks at things through a different lens. That's kind
Yeah,
of what I try to do from the athletic training, strength and conditioning side is like, all right, like, we've all been taught what's in the book forever. And, what do you do when the book doesn't work? And the
right.
information's there, but like you're not getting the results. So, how do you alter or change lenses and get such a unique scope that no one else sees? So from
Sure.
that aspect, I've kind of always like approached things like, how would, what would he kind of approach it like?
Yeah, I love
Um,
that.
Dan Foley, I think, is an incredible fascia guy. I think he's probably like the most, I don't even know, most research or fascia research human I've ever met and talked with. I think he's absolutely
Yeah.
incredible. One of my old roommates, who's now with USC, is their performance coach, Andre Matson.
Okay.
Just a incredible breadth of knowledge, and just how his approach to life, let alone his craft, is unmatched with anybody.
Yeah.
He's an incredible human. He's kind of how I got my start into my doctorate, and the how I got rolling into like the systemic inflammation and gut health and that whole aspect. He's the one that opened my eyes to all that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
um, he's definitely up there as well, as far as like somebody I look up to from a how to live life, but then also, like I said, how his approach to his craft is unreal.
Yeah, great answers. I love that. What kind of advice could you give to people getting in the sports performance world right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it's at an all-time like high for demand. Like maybe I just timed it right, but like, when I first came in, like nobody wanted the G League job, right? Like my
Yeah.
first year was still the D League, but like even in the G League, like it was looked down upon. That was like such a big thing that it's like, oh, I can't believe you're working in the G League. That's a shitty job, and everybody in the NBA was like, they look down on you because it's whatever. And the advice piece that I would take in it is like, it doesn't matter what role you're in, just like own it. Own it with and make it your own and make it the best experience possible. Because like even though people were talking shit on the roles and what it was, one, look at what it's grown into now. But two, like I wouldn't be the clinician or the strength coach that I am now without that time
Sure.
working in the G League. I did
Right.
4 years as both the strength coach and the athletic trainer, and it very much made me as well rounded as humanly possible. If I was just working in one specific role, whether it been the NBA or college or whatever it is, like I wouldn't be as well rounded to I guess like offer my abilities now that I could have been. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Now we're getting into my favorite part of the podcast where I ask our guests to share their flow stack. What is in Dr. Tyler Lesher's flow stack? Let's start with nutrition. Take me through your
Yeah.
kind of just how you approach nutrition.
So I'm a big guy on fasting. I really like fasting at least until noon. That's always just whether I've innately been like that or just kind of in general. But I do believe, especially like looking back on a lot of the research, I do believe that there is a lot of mental clarity and other aspects that you can get from fasting. And I think it's purely because, especially now, as everybody's starting to understand that the gut's the second brain and whatnot, that,
Yes.
if you eat like shit, then obviously you're going to have gut inflammation and that's going to relate into brain inflammation. So I've always been in the fasting. Pretty much I'm a big coffee guy until noon, and then I eat my first meal. I will avoid as much processed foods as possible. That's just the kind of nature of it. Obviously, we all love to go out and have a beer, eat some pizza, whatever it is. I'm never above that by any means, but you do try and limit it in certain aspects.
90-10 rule is what I like to do.
What's that?
90-10 rule for me. 90% of the time I'm good, but then on the weekends when I'm in the mountains after getting a Mexican Coke, some, fast food, it.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. Everything's fine in moderation. I am a big fan of, like I said, I just try and eat clean as much as possible. I'm trying to think what's all in this thing.
Do you have a favorite supplement brand that you use?
IM8 has been a really good brand that I do like for like an all-in-one daily nutrition, powder packet. I do like liposomal NADs. I do think that there's a big hit into that can open up, just a different, instead of just getting IVs and stuff like that. I'm a big fan for cellular health.
Is it Row Nutrition or Symbiotica? I know those are like the two main liposomal forms. Symbiotica just came out with their advanced creatine. So they got like a new advanced creatine that's, says like 15% better delivery.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're coming out with so many different creatines and stuff like that. It's they got the gummies. They got, name it.
Hard to keep track.
I can't remember the name of this one. I'm gonna say Designed for Sports, but that's not it. Yeah.
Cool. Let's get into gear. What about gear? Do you rock like a Whoop, Oura Ring? Do you track any of that kind of stuff?
Man, I am
clean.
I am free with it, and the reason why is like I've done it all from the patches, the glucose patches, the Whoops, Oura Rings. I've done the blood testing, the stool testing, name it. I've pretty much done it, and it's great to obsess over it until you kind of get to a point to where it's like you just kind of figure out what works for you.
Based off feel, right? Just strictly based off feel.
Yep. The other thing about it is, I'm not calling them inaccurate at all, but like I would wear a workout device and I would bust my ass in the weight room and then come back and be like, oh, your strain was only 4 for the day. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I just crushed myself. And, then I'd go out for a lot of jog and all of a sudden my strain would be 1 billion. And, so it kind of just got to one of those points where it's like, I've done this for so long. I know it works for me. I don't need to obsess over every little thing. I'm just kind of at the point now where it's like, I kind of got it.
I ask all my guests that question, and it's 50-50 split right down the middle, which I would have assumed it would have been more people like in today's world or on the tech side, but no, it's 50-50 split.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I like it. I think it's beneficial. I like seeing people use them because I think it's awesome for accountability. Especially in the world of we do live in a very obese world. Like I like to see like everybody trying to track and monitor because the more you do,
Sure.
it goes back to anything. Like if you track your calories and your nutrition every day, then you are more likely to eat healthier every single day, right? If you track your workouts every day, you're more likely to work out every day. If you don't do anything every day, guess what? You're more likely not to do anything that day. So it's just another form of accountability, which I do think is incredible and it has its place. There's no question about that.
Yeah. Yeah. What are your thoughts on contrast therapy? The cold
Love
plunging,
it.
the saunas, are you big? Yeah, love it.
I got a membership and that I go to almost every day. I'm a big
Collective?
lately I've been doing what was it 8 minutes sauna, 2 minutes con or cold plunge, 3 rounds of
Eight to
that.
ten. Okay.
I've really enjoyed
Yep.
that. Yeah, that's go back and forth.
What
Big
about
fan.
do you recommend any types of protocols for your athletes? Like, do you recommend them be more in the dry sauna, more in the infrared sauna? How do you recommend that for your athletes?
I'm gonna leave it up to them as far as like what they prefer, as far as like which type of sauna, right? Because obviously,
Sure.
like dry sauna, it's a little different of a heat. It's a little harder to breathe in there, especially if it's like one of the super hot ones versus infrared. Easier to breathe, but you're feeling like you're cooked from the inside out. So it's a. But then on the flip side is in the infrared sauna, you can also add on the infrared light, because you can't have those in a dry sauna. I kind of leave it up to them. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't really matter as long as you're getting out of a homeostatic state, right? Like I just want to see if this is homeostasis. I want you pushing one edge and then going to the other. That's really all I
Right.
care about.
Have you tried some of the newer advanced longevity tech devices, the Immortal Chamber or Escape?
I've not. I saw it. I had a chance to get up into one, but it was way up in Frisco and we were traveling, so I did not. I have the guys contacting you, text them back. No, it looks awesome though. That chamber
Yeah,
looks pretty
well,
wild.
yeah, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on those trends because I feel like the trend right now is to kind of combine all these different modalities,
Yeah.
like six different things, and like get all the best of both worlds. I didn't know if you thought it was more of a just kind of what you're. I didn't know if you had an experience from it.
I don't. I mean, I do think that what is it? Compounding interest. The small things you do throughout the day over the course of time are going to have better results than if you just go like, all right, I'm gonna go do this one thing for 20 minutes a day, like because that
Sure.
set me up for everything that I need. I'm not too sure, but I mean, I know there's benefits in it for sure. They look awesome nonetheless, but
Yeah.
now the issue is these price points are getting out of control. To where
Right.
it's like you got to be you got to be making a ton of money to be able to afford something like this.
Yeah. Last question about your flow stack. Are you big into like breath work? You big breath work guy?
I used to be really big into it. I've kind of gone away from it only because I mean, honestly, it's just like a lazy aspect to it. The only time that I really work on it is when I'm in the cold tub, right? Like
Yeah.
as soon as I get in,
Yeah.
I'm heavily on the deep nasal inhales. And the only other time is if I'm working on true mobility, I'm big doing nasal breath work during that aspect as well.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, Congrats on your first marathon last year, correct? Or was it
Yeah.
this year? Or no, last
Yeah,
yeah, last year.
it was last year in June. That was just the worst idea I ever had. Crushed me.
I was going to ask any big like challenges this year? Any big you doing a race this year or anything?
No, I haven't quite
Half
thought of anything
marathons?
yet. I haven't quite thought of anything yet. I can see myself
No.
like doing another half marathon at some point because that's just way easier to train for. But I mean, I don't have anything currently on the books. I'm just kind of honestly working more on myself physically than like having a straight goal.
Yeah.
I'm sure something will come up. It always does. I don't know
Yeah.
what yet, but something will come up.
Cool, man. Well, this has been an awesome podcast. Thanks for joining. Where can people find you?
Yeah, Instagram, that's probably the best way. Honestly, it's just Dr. Lesh. It's just dr.tlesh. That's where I'm most active on for sure. But outside of that, I mean, LinkedIn, all those other things, but I'm definitely
Yeah.
most active on Instagram.
Most active on IG. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll link everything in the show notes. But yeah, man, this has been great. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your year.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me.